Good evening, everyone. My name is Jody Sanford, and I have the good privilege of being the Dean of the Evans School. And it's such a pleasure to welcome you to our 2024 celebration of public leadership. Our purpose at the school is to really inspire public service and democratize public policy. And tonight is really focused on celebrating leadership in action. So many of you know Dan Evans, our school's namesake, passed away over 2 weeks ago. And Nancy Evans passed a year earlier. And it's a personal loss for many of us. I had the good fortune to know them for the last 3.5 years since I've been here. And it's obvious to me they've had a tremendous impact on shaping Washington State, the country, and the University of Washington. And so tonight we're gathered to celebrate leadership, and there will be 3 amazing women that we're celebrating, and we'll honor them shortly. But I wanted to just pause and think just a bit about the legacy of public service that Dan and Nancy embody. For me, there are a couple of key things I want to highlight. Dan and Nancy both had a deep commitment to bipartisanship. They were really leaders in equity before we knew to call it that. They supported immigration and refugee services, tribal relations, the Black community. They helped create Chinatown as an essential place that's recognized as a vibrant cultural place in this city. In the last few weeks, it was interesting to me, the Seattle Times ran articles that talked about the role that Dan had in helping kids with disabilities be integrated into the public schools, and his clear leadership in environmental protectionism. So 25 years ago, the school was named after Dan. And that sparked even more engagement with the University of Washington. They've provided me incredible advice on my Dean's Council. They led the remodel of Parrington Hall and endowments that really support our students. So in 2022, soon after I arrived, as part of our 60th anniversary, I commissioned a video about Dan's life, really because I wanted to have had an opportunity to have students, when they come from all over the world, to understand a little bit more about the namesake of our school. And so this year at orientation, we shared it with them. It was just a few days after Dan had died, and it was such a powerful thing. And so what we've done tonight is created just a brief excerpt. In your programs, there's a code if you want to see the larger 14-minute video. But I'd like us to take the time and just watch it now.
I'm proud of the people of Washington. They're worth working for and they're worth fighting for.
It's a question many of us think about. Dan Evans will tell you he's thought about it.
I, Daniel J. Evans,
do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
How do we want to be remembered? How does he?
I'd just like to be remembered as leaving Washington a better state than when I started. I first ran for governor in 1964.
He served an unprecedented 3 consecutive terms as governor. Dan Evans would go on to serve as U.S. Senator, and after he left public office, he served as president of Evergreen State College.
He spent his entire life in public service. I mean, when you think about forward thinking, he was talking about an income tax. He was talking about a regional transportation system.
Creating the Department of Social and Health Services, creating the community college system.
He started the first ecology department in our state, which became the model for the EPA. He started a commission for American Indians. He started a women's council. I mean, these were things at a time when it was unheard of.
I think the lesson that Dan gave all of the governors was be true to your conviction. Don't worry about political consequences. Do what is right for the people. And if you keep the people first and foremost, politics will take care of itself.
He is a proud Republican in a state that is known to be not Republican.
This Republican likes to say, Not all good ideas come from one side of the political aisle.
And really, I went on to say that I've never seen a Democratic highway or a Republican school. These, they have to be done together, and that's where the big successes have been.
And that's where I think Dan was so great. He was always pulling people together. You would never know what party people were.
He believed that education was the tool to get us to greater equity, to get us to economic development, to get us to the future. And that is what I love about his association with the University of Washington.
You know, what's cool about the Evans School is that we bring people from across the world to Seattle to study about public policy. And I think what we're being known for is this kind of rigor about analysis and understanding policy problems and solutions, but we're also known for having a heart. And to me, that's really what's special about the namesake that we have, because I think Dan Evans was somebody who knew about rigor, and he had a heart.
To know him
Are you soured on politics?
Oh, heavens no.
is to know that he's had a lifelong commitment to the people of Washington State.
And that's what you hope, that your service led to some ideas that made people better off.
Former Governor Gary Locke.
Really welcoming Vietnamese refugees into our state when so many states were turning them away.
You can ask France Wong about that. France and his family were among thousands of Vietnamese refugees who came to live in Washington State after the Vietnam War. France was just 20 months old.
We were in Camp Pendleton, California. Governor Evans, of course, sent a representative down there with a very clear message, which is, you're welcome here in Washington. And so my family, among tens of thousands, settled in Washington State because of his generous message.
The West Point grad, who feels fortunate to have met Dan Evans, is paying it forward with his volunteer work helping Afghan refugees.
Looking at those families, in every single one, I saw a reflection of my own family escaping Saigon in 1975.
No question Dan Evans would be proud of France's public service. For the former governor, it's always been about public service.
But at 32, you must...
I'm 31.
31? I'm sorry. You must...
Just ask his wife Nancy, who's had a front row seat to it all.
All the things he's done have been well thought out. It's what he wanted to do. They haven't been haphazard. They haven't been wild. They've been practical.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah, we're speaking generally.
Yeah.
I think his legacy is one of effective governance, solving problems, and that is ultimately what any institution of higher education focused on policy needs to be about these days.
You have to invent how you're going to do things because, like everybody else, time rolls on and you're facing new circumstances and new challenges all the time. And it's what happens and how you deal with them.
And you hope you've made the right decision.
And not always, but...
Well, you always hope you did.
I always hope you did, of course, yeah.
So we're fortunate tonight to have members of the Evans family here. Isabel, John, and Joe Bell. Please rise if you are able and join me in celebrating Dan and Nancy and share the appreciation for the family tonight. That last scene kind of got to me in the movie because last year they were both sitting right there in the front row. But they would want us to go on and carry on their legacy. When I arrived here in 2021, the whole community got really serious about what are our values and our purpose. And tonight's theme of collective wisdom, brave leadership, and rigorous action are pulled directly from our mission statement. These words really are important for us because they help make clear what we're bringing into the world. And so in the last few years, of course, we've experienced real strain in civic health. We've seen attacks on democratic practices and institutions and heightened stressors on environmental change and military conflicts from across the world. In my State of the School address in January, I talked about our need to demonstrate organizational resilience this year. And organizational resilience is really when an organization can anticipate, prepare, and respond to these kinds of external changes to thrive and prosper. And in my conversations with Dan and Nancy over the last few years, they were really clear that the school needs to roll up our sleeves and participate in the renovation of democracy. So we're doing so through a number of new strategic partnerships with state and local agencies, our global and local leadership programs, and efforts across the 3 UW campuses to model democracy in action. The efforts really focus on building the democracy we need, not the democracy we've had. And that, for me, is why tonight matters. We launched this Public Leadership Award in conjunction with our 60th anniversary, and we'll continue it annually going forward, because in these times, I just feel so clearly we must acknowledge and celebrate courageous leadership as it improves communities in doing the real work on the ground. It's a moment to celebrate and learn together and really recharge, I hope, for the work that's ahead of us. It's also a moment to highlight what we're doing as a school, and later in the program, we're going to invite you to consider how you can be part of this work, because it's so important and it really takes all of us. So, let's turn now to this year's Public Leadership Awardee. 3 people who are really leading important work on behalf of communities in Washington. And I want to introduce my friend Mary Weidman-Williams, who's a member of my Dean's Council, and she'll join me on stage. She's also a proud Evans alum, a distinguished practitioner who teaches in our mid-career program, and she also served on this year's awards nomination committee.
Wow. Well, thank you to Jody for inviting me to participate tonight and for introducing me. And also, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be here with all of you tonight. Being on the stage to honor this year's awardees is a privilege. Just like being on the nomination committee was a privilege, but it was also a very rewarding experience because it gave me and the other committee members an opportunity to get a sense of all the magnificent work going on in the name of public service out there in places that we don't normally get to see or hear about. So I felt inspired, and I hope you will too as you hear a little bit of the explanation that I will give you about each awardee and their work, but also as you hear them more in the conversation in the panel discussion. So I also would encourage you to read more in our program about the tremendous work that each of them do. So are we ready? All right. All right. So our first award is the Community Catalyst Award. Research proves that grassroots leadership is a critical component of any community's well-being. The Community Catalyst Award recognizes a leader whose efforts impact not just any community, but one with which they call home as well. This individual is celebrated for their consistent efforts to foster collaboration, amplify local voices, with special attention to historically underrepresented groups, and maintain proximity to those who are impacted most by their work. This year's Community Catalyst awardee is the Executive Director of Latinos in Spokane, a Latino and immigrant-led nonprofit organization centered on supporting citizen participation, culturally led community development, and empowerment of the Latino and immigrant population in Spokane County. In addition to advancing policy work to safeguard immigrants' rights under her leadership, Latinos in Spokane has also implemented crucial health initiatives to address disparities in healthcare access, especially for uninsured Latino populations during the COVID-19 pandemic. This leader has championed culturally responsive care and broader healthcare reforms in Washington state, ensuring that immigrant communities receive the support that they need. Through her work in health equity, economic empowerment, and immigrant advocacy, she continues to shape Spokane into a more inclusive and supportive community for Latino immigrant residents. Please join me in a round of applause to celebrate Jennyfer Mesa, the 2024 Community Catalyst Award recipient. Next is the System's Changemaker Award. Now, this award recognizes a leader with remarkable sensitivity to the future and courageous determination to do what is necessary today to ensure a better tomorrow. They use strategic and pragmatic leadership as a medium to create change. And while their individual influence can move mountains, this changemaker intentionally shares power and responsibility. They understand systems change is most achievable when conducted as a collective effort and are a trusted convener and facilitator of collaborative action. This year, we are pleased to honor Liz Baxter, CEO of the North Sound ACH, which works to advance health, equity, social justice, and well-being across 5 counties in the northwest corner of Washington, which sit on the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish people. Liz has spent her career in executive positions in the healthcare space that build bridges between complex policy discussions and the public's desire to understand and weigh in on these issues. She often plays the role of translator, of technical knowledge for those who don't live inside the policy world. She's an innovative disruptor of policies and strategies, working to create spaces where power is shared, especially by those who most often have not had the experience of influencing decision makers. Please join me in a round of applause to celebrate Liz as our 2024 Systems Changemaker.
So, as the Dean of the Evans School, I have the great honor of having a Dean's Leadership Award that celebrates an individual or group committed to equity, radical courage, and uncompromising servant leadership. This leader is not afraid to run against the grain, particularly when it's required to support human dignity, embrace diversity, and foster democratic ideals. This year's awardee was nominated by Mary, so I'm actually going to allow her to make the introduction.
Well, there has to be some perks, right? I will say that as I read and reflected on the description of the Dean's Leadership Award, Trish Millines Dziko came immediately to mind. Trish's impact as a courageous change agent for equitable education and a tireless advocate for children of color is felt locally, regionally, and even nationally. In 1996, she left her successful 17-year career in the tech industry to ensure that students of color had the same opportunities that she'd had. The Seattle Times once referred to her as an African-American woman who rose from programming to prominence. I like that. And she did so in the Puget Sound's mostly white and male technology sector. She retired from Microsoft and repurposed her career, something I know a little something about. making a personal and professional investment in transforming the culture of both education and philanthropy. She has also been a mentor and a shero to many, especially other Black women in leadership roles, myself included. Trish Millines Dziko is the co-founder, executive director, visionary, and strategist behind the Technology Access Foundation, or TAF, one of the leading education nonprofits educating children of color to their full potential. TAF's mission is to build collaborative relationships with public education to create access to transformative systems of learning for students and teachers of color to eliminate race-based disparities in an increasingly diverse society. Through Trish's leadership, TAF continually advances this mission through its school partnerships and professional learning programs. To name a few, TAF Academy, which is a 6th to 12th grade award-winning public school co-managed with the Federal Way Public School. Transform Ed, which partners with public schools to create healthy and safe learning environments that center student voice and cultivates students into socially conscious and self-aware critical thinkers, problem solvers, ideators, creators, and leaders. Network for EdWork, designed to recruit, retain, and develop teachers of color in the Washington State public school systems. Trish also influences education reform and public education policy. As a speaker and a thought leader, her August 2022 TED Talk has over 74,000 views to date. Trish Millines Dziko exemplifies the ideals of the Evans School's Dean's Leadership Award. Please join me in congratulating her as this year's award honoree.
So, there are these award things that happen, and normally they come up, you hear a little bit about them, you applause, and then they go home. And I'm like, I'm a teacher, right? So we all have something to learn from these leaders, and so we're going to spend a little time in some conversation. I'd encourage you in the program, there's places for notes if you want to take notes or just grab some inspiration, because I think we're going to need it in the next few months. So in preparation, I had the opportunity to talk with each of these women. And I'll tell you, this is the first time it's been all women. There's a lot of women on the stage. And so as you've heard, they operate in really different domains. But one of the things that struck me as I spoke with each of them is they all kind of keep their feet on the ground, and they think about the systems and the policies and how do they make larger systems change given that expertise. And I warned them that I wanted to have a real conversation on this stage, so we're going to kind of pretend there's not 200 people watching us. And wanted to just ask each of you, what's your why? What's the purpose behind your leadership? Who wants to start?
Ooh,
I know.
we're looking at you. Okay, I can get us started. The why is, well, I live in the why. I live in the experience. I live within an immigrant community. I migrated to Washington after being in the country, grew up here in Florida, which my prayers are with my family right now in Florida. And because of my immigration status, I wasn't able to stay, so I seek to go to the University of UNAM outside of the US, because the US system, I wasn't able to enter the college system here. And I knew I was smart, and I knew I wanted to do something. But that led to other immigration difficulties, and I didn't make it back here until 2013. I was already in my late 20s, And I just saw the continued inequities and the continued failures that weren't failures, and also lack of access that was not reaching my community, whether it's in Miami or here. So then I decided to start working in how can we bridge this equity, and me as somebody that's learned English, that can understand systems, how can I translate that over to everyone else who is within my family and in my community?
So the why for me is connected to who I am, and not to show my age, but when I was applying to go to college, the census definitions of what is your race, I was an other. I am mixed race. Both my parents are from the Virgin Islands. My mother descended from African slaves. My father from French laborers. And I remember looking at these 5 categories and saying to my parents, I don't exactly know which box to check. And so at the age of 18, for the first time, I became an other. I had never been an other for the first 18 years of my life. But at that moment in time, I became an other. And I feel like the why for me is wanting to have us see each other, the diversity that exists. When I hear things, I spent a lot of my career in Portland, and I hear Portland is very white, the Northwest is very white, and it takes me right back to being like 18 and being an other, because all it means to me is you're not seeing me. And so for me, a lot of my focus is to have us open our eyes, see that next generation, see that language diversity, see that amazing richness of what makes up our communities. And as long as we're only seeing the average, the majority, we are missing the boat on what is possible. And so I feel like for me, it is always trying to say, oh, like those folks, I want to bring them forward and have them influence the rest of what we see. And so maybe I'm looking for, I just had my eyes checked, so maybe I'm looking for a way for us to have 20/20 vision on who's actually in our communities. That will help us see, like, if there's anybody where English is not their first language, was there a possibility for them to come in the room with an interpreter? If there's somebody who has like not perfect hearing, like what's the possibility? If their vision isn't great, like what is that? And the more that we begin to look at that, we actually start opening up those equity doors. We begin to see the richness and diversity of who's there. And I love both of these folks. I'm just amazed to be up here because this next generation is gonna blow us away. If we give them the tools and the space, that's where my hope lies, is in my grandson and his cohort. They blow me away. As long as we don't tamp them down into obscurity, they will take us so far. That's my why.
I can't be up here without first acknowledging my team over here, my spouse Jill, Team TAF, and Team Microsoft alumni. Stand up, you guys, come on. Woo. Yeah, this kind of work, none of us does by ourselves. For me, the why is I see our public education system undervaluing kids of color, undereducating kids of color, and harming kids of color. And it's not that much different than when I was in school. In fact, it might be a little bit worse, mostly because of all the other pulls. So for me, I'm a lot like Dan Evans in that education, particularly public education, is a pathway. It should be a pathway to success in whatever career you have, because we know kids today are going to have 4, 5, 6 different careers. But if they don't have that solid foundation, that solid education, they basically stall out when they graduate high school because they're not even prepared. There's a lot of work that we have to do. And for me, the sad part is to see kids who look like me continuing to suffer through our public education system. We have 90% of teachers nationwide are white, mostly women. That in and of itself is enough to make someone go, right? Over 60% of the kids who go to public schools are kids of color. And when you have teachers who don't come from your neighborhood, who don't come from your culture, who don't come from your background, there's a mismatch, and there's a lack of understanding, and there's a lack of having someone who's going to boost you up because they understand how to. That's why I do the work along with my colleagues that we do. That's why we keep pushing the envelope. That's why no matter whether we have money or we don't, if we're going to find a way or make a way to serve our kids.
I just want to emphasize something that you all said, but you didn't say, which is your leadership is coming from your identities and the things you've seen in the world. Mm-hmm. And so many of the young people are often, when you talk to them, they're like, well, tell me the way. And I often say the way is getting to know yourself better, getting to know what's the thing that you are uniquely put on this planet to respond to. And you all said that, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that's what you said.
Yeah. we have to give them a chance to find their way, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because we do tamp them down right away. Mm-hmm. Starting in kindergarten, right? Mm-hmm. It's, play is good, then you get to first grade. Stand in line, sit down, look forward, do it my way. Mm. And I'm going to tell you who you are and not let you be who you are. Mm. So we need to open it up a little more for our kids.
So the second question I wanted you to reflect on is the how you do it, right? So you've talked a little bit, Trish, about the how being in education. But how do you do the advocacy? How do you do the training? How do you do the system stuff?
When I think about system stuff in public education, it's very difficult. So we go one school at a time, one teacher at a time, one student at a time. Because that's the way we can do. We're tiny, we're 45 people. And we have 7 schools that we partner with, that we bring an entire system of change, from philosophy to culture to pedagogy, curricular content, diversity in the staff, and extended learning, right? And when you do something like that, you have to be very intentional. Mm-hmm. And all of our schools get a single coach whose whole job is to work with the principal and all of the teachers and work them through learning how to understand their kids, learning how to talk to their kids, learning how to give their kids voice in the classroom, because it is their education after all. And taking their ideas and turning them into something, getting kids to be creators and makers. And it makes a big difference when they feel like they can own their own education. What we're hoping is that through these examples, other people will catch on. And they will start to do similar things. I'm under no illusion that our model is the only great model out there. It is a great model. It is a great model. But it's not the only one out there. And what we want is other public schools, other public school districts to get out of the weeds of the test scores and all that mess and really open up and do what's right for kids, which means, on the system side, our state superintendent of public instruction needs to get themselves together and actually fully fund public education the way we need it, but you have to define what it is first, right? In this state, we haven't defined what it means to be a well-educated student, but all of our funding is based off of basic education. Well, what is that if we haven't defined it? And why are we using a 1970s something formula to do it? It makes no sense. And we all sit here and we clap and we say this stuff, but when we have to vote for that position, we don't have good people to vote for, because they settle in, they get their paycheck, they start looking toward the future, what they want to do, and they forgot why they got there in the first place. That's kind of cynical, but it's true.
So Jennifer, you're in a different context, Spokane. How do you do your work there?
I love that question because when you say Spokane, it's kind of like the Wild West, right? Kind of feel like I've been a pioneer.
Spokane.
I'm pioneering out there, but I don't work alone. I work with an amazing team, and the way that we were able to start our grassroots movement out there was listening to people, listening to community. None of this happens without the advocates of community. And the best advocates are the mom who is trying to get that attention from teachers in school, the father who's trying to be heard at the doctor because he only speaks Spanish and there's no interpreters, to the people that have been working. You know, we had a great discussion while we were having dinner tonight about how so many people are essential workers and they've had to work during this time of COVID. They've had to go out, they've had to continue working while not having the comforts of safety or of health. And in our case, and I say me as somebody who's lived as an undocumented immigrant and has lived here as an immigrant still, these systems were not made for us. They are systemically created to exclude us. So when you have nothing to lose, but you know that you work hard in community and that you give, you know, it's really important to be able to channel that power, that voice, because we do need our workers. We do need families that are here in our communities to be a part of it. So for me, the best advocates are people. And like we heard earlier, it's like if you have people first, and if you put people's needs first, I love the quote of the politics will work itself out. In early 2016, 2017, I was the crazy lady at the Greyhound station. Y'all heard about the Greyhound station out there? Yeah, and they were racially profiling passengers, but in Spokane, it had been very normalized. It was just part of every day. And when I asked about this, like, how long have they been here? And people would say, 10, 15 years. It was just completely normalized. So we got a group of us who decided to say this isn't normal, and this isn't how a city should operate, and this isn't the welcoming that we should give people that are using public transportation. And we had people who had been arrested, who had been impacted, and then others who just wanted to raise their voice, and we were able to pass a law at the city level with other partners and other people to the point where we passed a law at the state with partnerships like ACLU, who passed Keep Washington Working. So that was a really on-the-ground effort that was people-led because we were listening to people, and we decided to do something about it. And I never thought that I would be here standing with you all, speaking about this story because I was the crazy lady. But at the same time, it's just amazing to see how when you have people who have that energy and that drive, you can put them towards collective action. And that's what I think our communities, whether in Spokane or Seattle, people are longing that action, that difference of how can we make this state safe now, especially 4 weeks from now, and going forward in the future. So yeah, I think it's power within the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Liz, your work has been in health and community.
You want to know the how?
Yeah.
Do you have a question? I'm sorry. I'm still struggling with the fact that Trish thanked all these people, and I didn't thank the people that came for me. So
You're good. You're good.
I know they're going to catch me on that before we leave. You know, the thing that's really interesting, and so I have like a couple of board members here, a couple of staff, and one of the things that whether they register it, but I have said this continuously, part of my job is to find who comes next. And, I'm on the constant lookout for talented people, for committed people, for passionate people. And at the beginning of COVID, because of so much of what you just described, we decided to give preferential treatment to people who added a second language or a third language to our team. because we couldn't, in all honesty, go out and do the work we were being asked to do in community without actually being from the community. And it changed the dynamic of our team. And we have a set of frameworks, from tribal sovereignty. Washington has 29 federally recognized tribes. 8 of those have their traditional homelands in the region that we're in. So lots of richness and generosity of learning there. Wacomiskatchick County is deep farm, counties, and like how that navigated itself during not only the remote working, because I still wanted to buy raspberries in a grocery store, which meant other people were putting their lives at risk while I got to stay home, and not recognizing some of those things. And so we have been trying to bring people along to understand the frameworks that guide our work. And that's been a journey unto itself. But the piece, again, just, I'd love to spend an hour with each of you. The piece that I do want to mention is not only are there 3 women up here, but 3 women of color. And we live in a world that's looking for a moment when I will fail. That the leaders who lead other organizations across our region are at risk because they stand up. They tell their full story. They, describe the background and their history, and people are waiting for us to fail. So it is something that I feel like part of my job, the how, modeling what does it look like to be brave? What does it look like to ask questions, even if I think the answer will be no? How do I teach the folks around me that it's okay to bring yourself to the table and ask for what would make your community better, and that we'll have your back? Like, I don't have to ask the question for you, but we will be there to support you. But it is just recognizing there are folks who are waiting to take the legs out from under us. And again, just this notion of working with students. So I just have this slight story, because I loved the fact that there was this high school music here. And last night, Nance and I were at the Black Violin at the Paramount Theater, and these 2 young Black men who met in an orchestra class when they were in high school have been playing music, the violin and the viola, for 26 years as a career. And it was phenomenal. And they ended by having students from across the Seattle Public Schools join them on stage to be a part of this concert. And it's like we got to be able to show, we have to demonstrate that you can be successful in your role, that you can be successful in your role, that people will follow, because we also have young people who are looking for a role model. And if all their role models are white, and again, this is not a denigration of people who are white, if they cannot see themselves, the path to get from where they are to where I am, then I'm missing the boat. So I think it's like, how do I create that path? How do I help them see the stepping stones where they too can be a leader? They don't have to be me, but they can be them, and just the need for that leadership. And it's so important, because I feel like I see potential leaders every day, and I want to lift them up. I don't know that they see themselves as leaders, but I do. And that video, the importance of public service, there's just nothing more powerful than that. Having a commitment to advancing the public's good, the public's need, is so powerful. And I'm so grateful to the family and for getting to see that video. So.
So it sounds like for you, part of how you see your impact is is mentoring and the people who are coming after you. How do the rest of you see your impact?
Yeah, I have a combination of, so I'm going to say this, our oldest students, because we're 28 years old, our oldest student is what, Sherry, 45? Nice. 45!
Nice.
Okay, that's a long time. But I would say, the thousands of students who have gone through our program or gone through our schools, that's the legacy that we leave to the country, to the world, wherever they may be. But one of the things that I don't talk about much, and I should talk about more, is all of the staff members that have come and learned and grown and gone on to do other things. We have some that had gone to start schools in other parts of the country using our model. Our first instructional coach at Taft Academy is now a very, very famous professor at Vanderbilt and does a lot of great research on kids of color in STEM. And I think about people who have gone on to start their own organizations or to be leaders in other organizations. And I can, look at them with pride and say, we all learned together, and you got a good foundation from working at Taft. You have an understanding that our work is like, I always describe it sometimes as Sisyphus pushing that boulder, right? Except for the difference is we build a plateau every time instead of going all the way down to the ground, right? We push up, come down, build a little plateau, we fall down, we go up, 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 and just keep going. And getting them to understand that change is very difficult. The response to change is even more difficult. And if you really, really want something, you have to work very hard for it. And you're not always going to get it right the first time. So you have to keep trying and thinking your way through it, finding a way and making a way. And so to me, besides our students, the adults, the young adults that we have raised over time is an excellent legacy to mention.
I'm telling you, you just gave me a metaphor I'm going to use forever, that rock up the hill, but the platform.
You
so
got
the damn thing doesn't roll all the way down. I love it.
That's how you build.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So you have the last word. How do you think about your impact?
I think for what we've developed in Eastern Washington, and like I said, I'm one person of many in our organization and community leadership out there. For Latinos in Spokane, as a nonprofit, it's really been about creating opportunities in employment and also creating new systems. Like I said before, these systems were not meant for us, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare. We're making these small steps. This year we were able to pass immigrant healthcare expansion for the first time, which just sounds crazy, right? 98% of farm workers in this state are Latino, and the majority of them are undocumented. So everything that we eat, from the food that's grown to the processing, has been touched by an immigrant. But we're not giving them healthcare access. So that's something that we all should be concerned with, not only Latinos, this is part of a system, everyone. So we've been able to do is create jobs in these spaces and to advocate within these different systems and create a new system in Eastern Washington. Since we passed the policy in getting Border Patrol out of the Greyhound station and suing Border Patrol and suing Greyhound station for millions of dollars, we were hit by the census. We weren't going to be included in the census, so then we had to advocate for that. And then COVID hit, and we were just a group of people. I was hosting community meetings in different restaurants and libraries, anywhere that would give us a free space. And when COVID hit, the community relied on us to give information because we started Facebook groups, and all of our information was shared on social media. We would translate local news because there was no language access availability during the time of COVID. From there, we were able to earn our first grant, which was like $30,000, and we spent it all within a month. But it was a lot of money, and we put money down on creating a space. We got our office space, and then we became social workers without knowing it. And in our team, we have people who are church leaders, who are stay-at-home moms, but they were trusted people within their community, and each one of them could reach 200 families easily. So by employing them, we reached hundreds and thousands of people within our community. When we opened up our space, we held cultural events, but then we also became a COVID testing place. We were a laboratory, and we were the only place, not even the Spokane Regional Health District would be open during this time to provide COVID testing. But we had workers that had to get back to work, people that needed to get tested so that they can quarantine. We did that, and when people saw that leadership, they wanted to be a part of it, and they wanted to work with us. And I'm really proud to share our story here with you all. We are now, we have 16 full staff, 4 social workers who have been trained up by Better Health Together and through other agencies who've been able to give them those technical skills. We opened our own legal department so that we can start processing immigration cases ourselves, because we know that that can be tremendously expensive for people. So we get to advocate legally. We're also doing a lot of work to decriminalize past offenses that we know that hinder people from getting into jobs or getting into universities. We started our own food program. We have a social food program where we're distributing hundreds of thousands of pounds of food fresh for community. And all of these different departments within our small organization have created jobs that are offering living wages, and they're offering advocacy, and every single one of those people is impacting other people. Nice. So I think it's really about creating jobs and where people can see a future in this and admire public service. I'm here sitting before everyone, but there's amazing leaders within the Spokane community who've been doing that groundwork, because just a couple of years ago, we weren't able to go into a clinic and say, can I get help? Yeah. If you did, you would get grouped or maybe put in front of an iPad for a translation, or you wouldn't be able to get any long-term care treatment. The only treatment you would be able to get was urgent care. So I think that, you know, I would love to see that leadership just be admired by the everyday people who are doing that groundwork.
I want to talk to you women all night, but I can't. You want to have the last word?
Well, I just, you know, there's something about positive leadership being viral, and it creates other leaders, you know, and again, I hear that theme, and so I wanted to share an example of what happens when leaders come from community and they create space. So, you know, the Federal Voting Rights Act requires that during election time, if, you know, there's a certain percentage of people who speak a certain language, that the election materials have to be available in multiple languages. And in our region, Skagit County does not meet the threshold to be required to do that. Yet, because they were part of this growing network, trying to understand what could they do, so not what could I do, what could our team do, about a year ago, their elections office reached out to us to say, we'd like to actually, for the 2024 election cycle, have our materials in English and Spanish. They are not required to do that. And so they finally got all their materials printed. They've asked us to help distribute it, which, you know, we're like good with. But what that has led to, 2 other counties that do not meet the federal requirement are going, well, if Skagit can do it, like, why can't we? Yeah. And that is like a huge thing, because we're so used to, I do it because there's some federal law that requires me to do it. Now you've got folks going, oh my gosh, I'm actually giving access. There is nothing more critical in public service than getting people access to the right to vote. And so we're seeing these counties who are going, whoa, I actually can look at my community, see what they need, and we can do something about that without being required to do it. And watching those things happen, I don't know that has anything to do with me as a leader, but it is about people in the community seeing themselves as leaders and going, I wonder if we can do X. And just creating that, that space to help make that flourish and foster is pretty amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you all for being you, for doing what's needed in your place, and then sharing it and helping us have other people understand what it takes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk more. So, what's interesting about what we just witnessed is that not all young people believe that grown-ups believe what these women say. And that one of the things I really took from what Tricia said is we think a lot about how do the systems push the natural leadership capacity in kids down. And so when the Evans School was created, a lot of the work that we initially started was really focused on training policy analysts at the master's level. And many of you in the room went through those programs. But it's been really clear to me that at the Evans School now, we have to fire on a different array of cylinders to meet the moment and to really help young people claim that when they're responding to their community needs, that is public service. And one effort that we've been involved in is our NextGen Civic Leader Corps. And before I even became the dean here, I said yes, for us to be one of the founding members in a university network that's now 21 universities wide. And it's not a narrow academic program. It's really a network that is open to undergraduates from any major. And really the focus is on helping them have the aha moment or claiming the aha moment that our speakers have just talked about. So they do experiential learning together, they do network development, they do coursework, but they basically are given a language to claim public service as part of their calling, irregardless of their technical field. And I'm really proud that even though we've built this thing on a real shoestring budget, in the last 2.5 years, we are serving more than 350 students across the 3 campuses from over 50 majors, right? And we really have a vision that we want to grow this to more than 1,000 young people who just are part of a community that's about public service at scale. So we want to show you a little video that gives some voice to the experience of these young people. And after the video, you're going to hear from my colleague, Ana Pinto da Silva, who taught in one of the inaugural cohorts of our graduate programs in leading public service innovation. Because in addition to working with young students, we're also wanting to bolster up people who are working every day in public agencies who know that they want to lead, that they want to change things that are broken, but need a little support, need a shot in their arm to do so. So she'll share a little bit more also about our professional students and how they're really trying to shape public agencies, reshape them from within. So a little bit more people. There are many forces in the world making people cynical, forces that are really trying to delegitimate higher education. But we are founding members of a strategic movement offering another way. The NextGen program isn't a calling to public service, but a pathway to doing public good.
For me, I've gotten the opportunity to attend different workshops and also different events. This past year, we attended an event hosted by the Lieutenant Governor, Danny Heck, on understanding civic health within Washington State. And it was a collaboration between different local and state legislators, as well as individuals within the community, like myself and some of our other UW peers, both from the UW Tacoma and UW Buffalo campuses, and understanding what you bring to the table and feeling validated and also feeling empowered to be like, oh, like, I have something to say, and my experiences and my identity can help contribute to the conversation and the issues that we're talking about.
So the Next Generation Service Corps is a national initiative. It includes more than 20 universities from across the country, and we are all working together and rowing in the same direction. Usually universities have, they have a tendency to compete for resources, for funding, for faculty, for students, for rankings. In the Next Generation Service Corps, we're all working together collaboratively. Our focus is engaging undergraduate students across disciplines and helping them learn how to be a change maker and how to make an impact in public service, public good, and advancing the interests of the community.
One of the big things with NextGen is the interdisciplinary aspect. I feel like that's a very big draw. And I think I realized that through one of the signature events held at UW Seattle, where state senators came and we got to speak with them. What I noticed is a lot of them had a variety of backgrounds. It wasn't just strictly political science. And as a computer science student, I was intrigued because even though initially I thought these two things don't seem to mesh, I noticed that civic engagement is a very interdisciplinary thing. It's something that translates to any profession or field.
With this being a national network and with my role as ambassador this year, I went to Arizona ASU to go check out an event that was happening with their NextGen program. I was able to meet ambassadors from about 10 different schools. I was very inspired by all of the students. Everyone was very kind, and they also had a lot of experiences around public service and public policy, which really sparked my interest in learning from them and also networking, seeing what opportunities will be available to students, throughout the country. So I think it was a great opportunity to connect with them, and also, we'll definitely be furthering relationships in the future.
Our NextGen students, I think of them as the future of our democracy, and not a democracy that they necessarily inherit, but one that they chart. And so we imagine our Next Generation Service Corps students having mastery in a number of disciplines, and they are coming into the program with an interest in making change. And we're giving them the skills to do that.
Now that was inspiring. Facts, right? Facts. So my name is Ana Pinto da Silva. I am a designer, a technologist, a passionate community convener, educator, and proud mother of a rising freshman at Garfield High School. And above all else, a fierce advocate for troublemaking as a key strategy for game-changing innovation at the intersection of policy, culture, and technology. So in addition to serving as the co-chair of the Jody Sanford Fan Club, a position I hold jointly with Dr. Stefan Blanford, I serve as the director of the University of Washington's Masters in Human-Computer Interaction and Design program, and I have the honor of serving the Evans School as an adjunct faculty, co-teaching alongside the insanely talented and amazing Professor Steve Page in the Evans School. I know, let's give it up for Steve. His greatness is unmatched by his height. In the Evans, so we co-teach in the Evans School Leading Public Innovation Certificate Program. Launched just this year, our students are already having an impact. Let me give you an example. Eza Agos at Sound Transit, Larissa Hart at Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and Lisa McAllister at the Department of Commerce leveraged user-centered design strategies to create a preferred entry program to Sound Transit's Project Labor Agreement. So the Project Labor Agreement offered streamlined access for youth involved in the juvenile rehabilitation system to pre-apprenticeship training and job opportunities working on sound transit construction projects. So what does this mean? What it means is that young people at an immensely vulnerable time in their lives have a clear and legible pathway to good union jobs in construction that support sound transit projects, giving them the skills and stability that they need to rebuild their lives. And that is a student project. Yeah, But Evans School Innovation does not stop there. The Evans Policy Innovation Collaborative, known as EPIC, is in fact as epic as it sounds. I know, EPIC. EPIC is a policy lab that unites researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and members of the public to co-design actionable solutions to complex societal problems so that our public systems serve all people equitably and justly. EPIC brings together designers, policymakers, and researchers alongside community members whose lived experience establishes a ground plane for visionary change-making, working side by side to frame innovative recommendations for actions that can have meaningful impact today. These types of powerful learning experiences are the hallmark of Evans School education. Evans School Master's students are doing applied policy research with a range of state, local, and nonprofit partners through the Evans School Student Consulting Labs. For example, Caitlin Barrera, Sydney Romero, Anthony Metellus, and Alex Ozcan developed recommendations to help the city of Issaquah increase tree canopy and carbon sequestration on private property, helping the city reach their climate action goal of 55% tree canopy cover by 2035, while also ensuring that the community sees all the other benefits trees provide, from beauty to storm water retention to animal habitat. Now that is making a difference. As Jody so powerfully illustrated in her opening remarks, the work of the Evans School is more urgent now than ever. Across the arc of the Evans School community, emerging leaders are learning and leading together, guided and inspired by some of the most remarkable educators and practitioners in the world. From faculty members such as Allison Cullen and Crystal Hall, who are leading cutting-edge policy research from combating wildfires to addressing systemic racism, to the undergraduates leading the NextGen Civic Leadership Corps. The Evans School is leading forward, bringing its powerful vision to life, creating a community of practice inspired by inquiry and fueled forward by the kind of courage, curiosity, and care that would have made Nancy and Dan Evans proud. Now, community is the heartbeat of innovation. But we all know that communities cannot survive without investment. They need our care. They need our commitment. And they need the financial fuel that will allow them to force multiply their inherent potential, allowing them to bring forward the kinds of policy and practice innovations that will change our world. Now, there's a funny thing about the word community. It's a cat-rat simple word that feels almost pedestrian in its plainness. But pop the etymological hood on that baby and the magic of this beautifully quotidian word unfolds. Contained within its simple envelope, the word community holds space for the Old English word intention, for the Frisian word to signify or to make known, the Dutch word to think, to suppose, to be, the Irish words to wish and to desire, and finally going all the way back, the Proto-Indo-European root word to change or to exchange. Given this beautiful etymology, we can see that community is the essence of our collective humanity, allowing us to share, to exchange, to understand, to make meaning, to become, to renew, to invent, to make, and above all, to imagine. Individually, we are a collective community of systems. See Walt Whitman, see microbiome, see epigenetics. But collectively, we are a community of communities, and that is exactly what the Evans School is. When we come together, united by a shared purpose, inspired by a sense of shared possibility, we can make big things happen. And tonight, that's exactly what we're going to do. As I look around this beautiful room, I don't just see a dedicated and passionate group of Evans School supporters. I see a room full of change makers, of people who know viscerally from the rough and tumble of life experience that bringing the future forward takes more than dreams. I see a room full of leaders who have the grit, the determination, and the collective capacity to make sustained, transformative change happen one check at a time. And that's where you come in, because that work begins here, tonight. So before I hand this mic back to Jody, I'm going to ask us to do a big, brave thing. We are going to harness the power of community, and we are going to imagine together, okay? So first, deep breath. We're going to center the inspiring vision of the Evans School to build inclusive societies powered by collective wisdom, brave leadership, and rigorous action. Okay, do we have that? I know we have that. All right, next. Let's amplify that by imagining the impact that the Evans School will have across our community, our nation, and our world. And now, and this is the fun part, we're getting close. Imagine the number that you all walked in the door with, and I know you know what I mean. There is a number. It has been discussed. At home, over coffee, with your partner. It's in our minds. It's comfortable. It's right there. So now we're going to take that number and we're going to put ourselves inside the grandeur of the Olympic Peninsula in all its Pacific Northwest glory and imagine, inspired by the legacy of Dan and Nancy's leadership, what we can do together, okay? And with this inspiration in mind, we're going to give breath to the number that we came in with. And we're going to challenge ourselves to stretch, to go a little bigger, perhaps adding a number to that number, maybe a 0 on the right side of it, maybe the number 7, the number 5, the number 7, 5, a 9, a couple 9s. Just let it grow a little bit bigger. And if we all have that number in our head, then I'm going to invite you to take out your commitment cards or point your phone at this amazing QR code and make your gift right now. So let's take a minute and let's go do that thing together, all right? And so on behalf of the Evans School, we are so grateful to each of you for your generosity and for your many contributions to our community. Your care and your commitment will ensure that the Evans School will continue to impact now and into the next decade and beyond. Let's lead, let's leap, and let's build the future together. Thank you.
So we've come to the close of our time together. But before we head back to the lobby for dessert and coffee and more conversation, I want to take a few moments for some special acknowledgements. First, obviously, events like this really need our sponsors. So Costco Wholesale and the Gates Foundation came in to help. Amazon, John and Bobby Bridge, Nancy and Ben Remack, and other supporting sponsors. I'd also like to thank distinguished guests and officials who've joined us this evening. They're on the next slide. We feel very, very grateful that the community comes together with us again because of the legacy, I think, of Dan Evans. We also have some alumni that are celebrating milestone anniversaries, but there's a lot of alum in the room. So I actually want to ask people, we'll put the lights up, if you are a graduate of the Evans School, MPA, EMPA, graduate certificates, or anyone who's taken part of professional education, will you stand up? Thank you. Thank you for the work you are doing leading in our communities. You are leading with public service. I also need to obviously thank our volunteers. I have an amazing Dean's Council. We have some wonderful ambassadors. And we have an amazing group of faculty. And you've seen this event crew. So I want to shout out Lauren Domino, Wendy, Bryce, Connie, for just really helping us have a fun evening. There are many ways to stay connected. Anna gave you the hard sell on the dollars. We also very much appreciate people who partner with us on internships, community capstones, other activities, because we're trying to do a lot in the world. I think it's important to just say that the Evans School is the only equity-centered school of public policy and governance in the United States. And we are about trying to support courageous change makers who want concrete, actionable strategies and pragmatic skills to really transform civic life in our communities, in the region, and in the world. And I'm really grateful that you are part of that community, and just really want to thank you for being part of the work. So please join us. The evening isn't done. There's dessert. There's more conversation in the lobby. But again, it's been a lovely night so far. Let's continue.